Okay, so I'm experiencing Steve Bannon's shock and awe flood the zone strategy of a Trump administration and its overdrive. And Trump won. I don't necessarily know if I'm covering. I wasn't necessarily doing this full time, but I was overwhelmed like everyone with a nonstop chaos. The circus. The circus is back in town since January 2025. Someone covering the lawsuits. It was not as bad to cover these lawsuits early on. It was just, every day there was someone fighting back, and that's what I started doing, covering the lawsuits filed against the Trump administration and just letting people know that people are pushing back and we're fighting back. Just as fast as he was issuing these executive orders that were out of the bounds, that were example of extreme executive overreach, was something what he did in the first term, but as a second term, in the second term, if you don't know, there's this called lame duck. When it's your second term as a president, you can do initiatives that you won't necessarily do the first term because you want a second term. So you're careful. So he was careful. So all the crap he did the first term was a careful version. And this is like the chaotic, out of control version is normally happen. And an example, of a sane example, Barack Obama often say, did My Brother's Keeper, which is an initiative dedicated to Black men and boys, is to counter things like the school to prison pipeline, to talk about mentorship among Black people. He couldn't have done that his first term. They would have voted him out because he would have been determined too Black, or the Black president. They were like, no, we're not doing this. But his second term, he knows he doesn't need another term. He can do whatever he wants. So you can kind of like elevate and know that, you know, you may lose the midterms, but at least you get to try to carry out your agenda and do the things you want to do. So that's what we're experiencing with Trump too. No matter what he says about 2028, that's just a grift. Steve Bannon's in on it to try to sell some stuff to his MAGA base. He's not running. He can, and it also we don't even know he's gonna make it out of this term the way he's looking, right? So so anyway, so we don't know if he's running again. We do know that this is because of all of this and Project 2025, and it's a combination of that. And I always say it's a loose conglomeration of various different factions that are fighting for attention and time at the same time, and they're puppeteering someone who is cognitively in decline, who is depraved, sociopathic, and then as we know from the recent Epstein dumps and what the victims have said, he's alleged abuser of kids, and so kind of worst human being and adjudicated sexual abuser. Was being prosecuted for stealing our top secret documents. Who the hell knows who's going to sell them to? Trying to subvert the will of people. Lies about 2020 because the Jack Smith testimony said that he knew. So that's where it starts from. So I started doing coverage of Jack Smith's testimony, where Jack Smith said that. That Donald Trump knew. So while I'm covering that, I just finished covering the Lisa Cook Supreme Court. This is all in under a week. Supreme Court hearing, Supreme Court oral arguments. Then the Jack Smith things comes out. So I started covering that. As I'm finishing that, you see, I think at the same time Jake Lang was in Minnesota and got mauled. And I started covering that, and just I had a great idea, light bulb moment of what that meant to be radicalized and to be radicalized as a MAGA. Something Jake Paul said in the back seat, something from the trans woman and her friend who picked up Jake Paul said something that Jake Lang told them made me think, oh, wow, this is an example of someone who's radicalized. I was like, bright idea. I'm going to do a video on that. I'm going to include that in my podcast. So I do a podcast that talks about the Jack Smith hearing. It talks about the Lisa Cook oral arguments at Supreme Court, and what I extrapolate is Jake Lang being radicalized, right? Doing that video, I'm editing that video, and as I'm doing that video, I see news comes down, the Minnesota stuff's coming down, and then I think I'm trying to think around the same time that then, as I'm doing that stuff, then Alex Preddy gets killed. So then I start pivoting to talk about Alex Preddy gets killed, and then I learn about the judges, and then we see over the weekend the judges were just letting go all these protesters, and there's 100 court orders were not being filed. Court orders in Minneapolis and St. Paul were not being abided by Department of Justice. And then I go look into that, and I see there's all these stories of warrantless arrests, and I'm heartbroken. So I start covering them. I have 15. I've recorded video, and I'm editing that video. As I'm editing that video about the 100 about the heartbreaking stories of warrantless arrests, I see the news comes out that Ghislaine Maxwell uh, filed a new pleading in December that we just overlooked. So I'm looking at that pleading, and I'm like, oh my God, this makes sense. This makes sense. Oh my God, something big is going to happen. Donald Trump starts threatening fights with Iran. and then all the other nonsense that's going on with him. That's the constant circulation regarding the trade war. He's the prime minister of Canada, I think this is Prime Minister Carney, says something to piss off Donald Trump, and then he issues 100% tariffs. And then I'm like, oh my God, this man is so erratic. You hurt his feelings. He's such a fragile person. He's ruining the economy because his feelings are hurt because somebody says something in a speech which pisses him off, or he sees China and Australia negotiating something that pisses him off, so he issues 100% tariffs on China because he's mad. And because he's mad, the cryptocurrency market cranks. And so I'm like, that's what y'all get. So I started doing a video about that's what y'all get for putting your hands and putting your all your hopes and beliefs in somebody who's crazy. That's what you get. That's what you get. So I do a video on that. As I'm doing a video on that, then I hear Don Lemon got arrested. What the freak? So Don Lemon gets arrested, and I'm just like, wow. And then I started doing some research. I said, oh, Georgia flood too, and I'm like, wow, this is so crazy. And then I'm getting from independent, sources, videos constantly coming through of new statements, and I'm like, wow, this is every single video I get is like, this is so interesting. I have a thought about this. I have a thought about this. Oh, I have a perspective on this. Oh, this reminds me of this. So I'm coming up with all these different ideas as I get these videos because I have various different sources. And then I hear after all that, then I see the new Epstein drop. And someone's like, oh my God. So my Midas Touch dropped some of the files from the latest Epstein dump, like 2 million files or whatever like that came. And I'm like, they did this stuff the same day they arrested Don Lemon. It's just all purposeful and it's so overwhelming. And this is Flood the Zone. And it's Flood the Zone is because there is a reporter who said it recently. I saw it from Miss Now reporter Katie Tur, I think that's her name. What's her name? Katie Tur. She talked about the DOJ is opening a civil rights probe into Alex Preddy's death. Donald Trump called Alex Preddy an insurrectionist. He says that he changes his opinion on Renee Good, knowing that her parents were MAGA. So your empathy for someone's death changes if they supported you. Like you can't. The man has, and I decide I'm gonna start calling the alleged child predator, and so I don't know. These algorithms be like suppressing our content and stuff. But anyway, I digress. The point is that it's overwhelming, and as an independent journalist who's doing this, I'm not even a journalist. I changed my mind. I'm not a journalist because I have a journalism degree. But I am not a journalist because journalists have to remain neutral. And I think it's important that you make this distinction. Journalists have to be neutral. Journalists have certain code of standards, the code of ethics regarding your neutrality, impartiality, regarding things like off the record is a thing. When it means like someone tells you something, they say it's off the record, means you can't publish it. A blogger or somebody who doesn't have the journalistic integrities, even if they hear something and the person say, hey, don't tell anybody this or this is off the record, they'll still publish it because they don't have the same standards as a journalist. So journalists have certain ethical standards, impartiality, neutrality, of respecting. Journalists find out and know things and they don't share it. Even though they know something because they want to get access. So there's a lot of things that journalists know about Donald Trump, about the White House, but as a courtesy, and same thing with Biden, same thing with Obama, as a courtesy, because I covered the Obama White House, like from the inside, from the Brady press room. I've been in the White House, I've covered all that stuff. And so we learn about things. We get embargoed access to things, and we're told stuff that we're not, and as a courtesy, because you want to be invited back, you don't share those things. Journalists know a lot of things, so they're understanding. So I'm not a journalist because I'm not impartial, but I would say, and I'm a news aggregator, but I'm not an impartial news aggregator. But I'm not. I'm definitely from the left side. I'm definitely from the Democrat side, or independent. Because at one point I was independent. I've been independent. I've been Democrat, but I voted for Republican candidates. So I'm all over the map in terms of I'm all about not about one issues. I'm all about the bigger picture. But anyway, it's not about me. The point is that it's so overwhelming, and the point is that it's so overwhelming for somebody. I just pivoted for this to go full time on this. I'm doing a lot, and people say, "How do you do so much? How do you cover so much? Oh my God, you're covering so much!" And that's because this is all I'm doing. So all of this is to say, please support my work. Buy me a coffee because this is a lot, and I don't have an assistant, and so it's just hard for me to cover it all. So you appreciate the work I do here. You'd like me to continue to do this because I do have a job offer pending, and I'm thinking about this is just too much. I'm definitely just I can't. I don't know if I can. I'm gonna try. I like it. I enjoy it. I'm gonna try to do my best to stay and hang in there. But at this point, I don't know if I can do this. It's not sustainable at all right now. But if you help me, maybe I can get myself an assistant. Buy me a coffee. Support the cause. JJ Lee.